I don't think many people have heard of Vesuviate watches, but I think that's about to change. They've got a new square watch coming out that I just absolutely love the design of. It's powered by a Miyota 9000 series high beat movement with amazing specs all the way around, including a pretty unique case hardening treatment on the stainless steel case. This is a sports watch with 100 meters of water resistance, but it's versatile enough to pass itself off as a dress watch as well if you need it to. And that kind of versatility in a square watch is something that I've really been looking for a long time. Now, this watch that we're going to be looking at today is a prototype that was sent to me by the owner for review purposes. I will be sending it back to him after this review is done. However, he did graciously offer to send me a production model for free if the campaign is successful. However, other than the promise of potentially receiving a watch in the future, I did not receive any other compensation for this review, nor did Vesuviate have any input into the content of the review. This is a watch that is going to be launching on Kickstarter on March 30th, and they're still working out their pricing, but they're trying to hit a target point of $350, which is, I think, a pretty spectacular price for everything that they're offering in this package. I mean, just based on looks alone, this has got to be one of my favorite watches that's come across my desk in the recent months. Additionally, the case hardening treatment on this is very interesting. I don't fully understand the process, but this is a stainless steel case that's gone through some kind of a thermochemical process to harden the surface of it. But the basic idea is that this is supposed to be about 5 times harder than a standard 316L stainless steel case. And that hardening process is applied to the bracelet as well. So the watch has a really beautiful finish to it, and it seems to be doing pretty well at resisting scratches. You know, I've only had it for a couple weeks, but it really doesn't appear to have grabbed any scratches in that time. So far I'm pretty impressed. Anyways, let's jump in and take a look at the watch, and let me show you guys what I like about it. All right, so this is the Attivo from Vesuviate Watches. And I feel like this has definitely some kind of 70s influences going on. These square watches, I think, were a lot more popular back then. I actually really like the look here. There's just something about that square case, but then with the round markers going around the inside that gives it a really interesting visual look. And I kind of like how they've taken the square theme and integrated that into the dial design a bit too. So, you know, normally you get larger markers at 12, 3, 6, 9. In this case, you've got smaller squares that sort of echo the square shape of the case. A little bit different there, but double squares at 12, single square at 6. That circle within the square frame just kind of gives it kind of a cool, fun look. And very versatile as well. I think you can get away with using this as a sports watch, and in a lot of cases it'll work fine as a dress watch. One thing I do need to mention is that this dial right now, this is supposed to be the black version. It kind of looks like a dark chocolate brown dial. They're actually going to be darkening that, so I think it will be closer to a true black. Anyways, let's get the dimensions out of the way. So this is a 39 millimeter across case, and then 46 millimeters lug to lug. It is only 11 millimeters thick, including a very slightly domed square sapphire crystal. Okay, and then the bracelet dimensions are kind of interesting. So this is kind of an integrated style bracelet. It is removable. You can take it off, but it uses a custom lug size. So you've actually got 16 millimeter lugs, but then a bracelet that starts at 24 millimeters wide and then tapers down to 22. So that is one thing that it is going to limit your strap options. You know, finding straps that will work with this is pretty much going to be impossible. However, Vesuviate did mention that they are working on a couple of strap options. They're going to make a leather one and a rubber one is what they're trying to do. Now, I typically prefer to have the option to swap out to different straps, but I really do feel like with a square watch like this, this is probably the best solution. Square watches look best when you have a very wide band that is close to the size of the case. Visually, it just kind of looks odd to me if you would have had like a normal 22 millimeter band or something like this. The silhouette wouldn't look quite right. So if you're going for a square watch with a bracelet, a custom bracelet like this is probably the best way to go. And this is a very nice bracelet. You've got really beautiful finishing with these kind of wide polished center links and then thinner sort of bead blasted or satinized outer links. Looks really cool. And then they've gone with sort of this hidden butterfly clasp that also is a very nice visual look, and it seems to be a high quality clasp. However, that does pose a potential problem because with a clasp like this, you are not getting any micro adjusts. And while these links are very thin, they're fairly small, there are no half links, which means that for most people, you're probably going to wind up having to size the bracelet so that it will be a little bit loose on your wrist. I think for me, that would be the one thing I would like to see change, is I would like to see, even though it wouldn't look as nice, I would like to see a full clasp that has micro adjusts that'll give you more flexibility on that, especially since this bracelet is going to be one that you're probably going to be having to wear with the watch and not have a lot of other options to swap it out. Now, I will say that I have been wearing it loose on the bracelet, and it's not been a deal breaker for me. I still really enjoy everything else about this watch, and so that's kind of a minor annoyance that I would be willing to put up with. So let's talk about these other things in the watch that I really like so much. But one of the strengths of this watch is the case and the case finishing. So this entire case has been treated with a hardening treatment to make it substantially harder than stainless steel and therefore much more resistant to scratches. And so that's kind of one of the cool things. So you see this bracelet is highly polished, which it does pick up fingerprints and smudges pretty easily. But you'll notice on this prototype version, which I have been wearing and testing, even on the underside of the clasp where you often get a lot of scratches, there hasn't really picked up any. So the hardening treatment seems to be very effective, and that should allow you to keep this finish in good condition for a much longer period of time than you normally would. So both the case of the watch and the entire bracelet is treated with this hardening process. So kind of a cool feature to see, and definitely some value added there. The finishing on the case is also really good. You're getting kind of a brushed top of the case, which you can't really see too much of underneath this bezel. But there's some brushing on the top of the lugs and just on the little outline there. But then you have this sort of wide polished bezel on top of it, and then a polished case, side case. Overall, that little bit of brushing on the top blends in nicely with the satinized finish on the side of the side links of the bracelet, so you get a good smooth transition there. And it's just a really cool overall look. I will say that the case shape is fairly blocky. It's on the main case. You get a nice, the sides basically are just, drop straight down. Would have been cool to see a little bit of beveling on there to kind of, or some steps or something just to make the case a little bit more interesting, but that's kind of a minor thing. And that nice curved bezel is really what kind of dominates the top of the case and what you mostly see. The crown is a little bit oversized, which makes it very easy to grip and operate. It is a screw-down crown as well, so that's another cool thing that you're getting. Fairly rare to see a screw-down crown on kind of a dressy sports watch like this. At 100 meters, most of the 100-meter watches that I see come with a pop-out crown. It's nice that they went the extra step to put that in there. Inside, they're using one of my favorite movements. This is the Miyota 9015. Very thin movement, so that allows it to get that 11 millimeters thick on the case, and very smooth sweeping second hand. So this one is beating at 8 ticks per second, which is smoother than your typical 6 ticks per second that you see in most of your kind of Seiko NH35 powered watches. And it's a small difference, but it is a really cool visual effect to see that really smooth sweeping second hand. Also, the Miyota 9015 is a very accurate movement, very high quality movement. There is a very nice see-through case back on the back, allowing you to see that Miyota 9015 movement. So they have labeled gilt here. This will be the gilt version on the production. Right now this is a silver version, but it will be gold-plated by Miyota. They sell this factory gold-plated, so they're going to be upgrading the movement slightly to give you just kind of a nicer visual look in there. So you see a gold movement in the back of the watch. A little bit of flash underneath. So yeah, not really going to affect the function of the watch, but when you do take it off to check out the movement, that'll be kind of fun to look at. I love the way this watch wears on my wrist. It's very comfortable, and it's just such a cool look to see that square watch on there. It's a case shape that I've really been looking for a while, trying to get a good square watch into my collection. Again, it's something that you don't see very commonly these days, but I really do like the look. I was kind of eyeing some of Seiko's square watches a while ago, but I felt like they were kind of thick and they had hardlex crystals. This one at this size with that 11 millimeter thinness and that sapphire crystal, it's really exactly the kind of square watch I was looking for. So I was really happy when HK reached out and offered to send one of these over for review. Anyways, let's go ahead and check out the lume. So the Attivo kind of sits between a sports watch and a dress watch, and the lume kind of sits in between that as well. It has excellent lume if you consider it a dress watch, and just kind of okay lume if you consider it a sports watch. The hands and markers are fully lumed with BGW9, and you do get a good strong glow if you go from a bright room into a dark room. And if you fully charge it up, you can get just about an hour's worth of after dark use out of the watch. As you can see in this lume test, I have it going up against some other upcoming Kickstarter launches and some, standard watches in my collection. The markers are pretty bright on it, but the hands do fade out rather quickly. And as soon as the hands go, you can't read the watch after dark anyways. So while I would have liked to have seen a longer lasting loom on this watch, it's not really a deal breaker and is probably going to be just about adequate for most things that you'll be using it for. So the Attivo is going to be launching with a lot of different color options. I've really got my eye on that gray dial one, but actually I think the black dial one is a really cool classic look as well. Really the only thing that kind of gives me some hesitation on this watch is the bracelet and the clasp, which I've kind of touched on already. And I'm kind of torn on this because the bracelet is an excellent bracelet. And it's a key part of the design, and I think that's really what you want. If you're going to do a square watch with a bracelet, probably the best way to do it is with a custom integrated bracelet. Just to get the proportions right, square watches tend to look good when the bracelet or the band is comparable to the width of the square itself. And the links are fairly short, so even though the watch doesn't have any micro adjusts or half links, you should still be able to get close to a good fit. But I still would have preferred to have more of a standard milled clasp with micro adjusts, something a little bit more sporty to kind of lean into that sports aesthetic of the watch. I think if it had that little bit of an extra adjustability, this would be a true one watch collection kind of watch that can do anything. And the fact that this does use a custom lug width really means that you're going to be limited to buying straps directly from Vesuviate. And while I'm sure for some people that might be a little bit of a deal breaker, for me it's something that I would be willing to put up with wearing this watch because everything else about it is pretty much perfect. But let me know what you guys think down below, and definitely be keeping an eye on the Vesuviate website. Get ready for that Kickstarter launch. There will be early bird pricing, so you can get it for even less than their launch price if you jump on it quickly. But that will wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.